Hello everyone and welcome to today's segment of Roundtable. I'm your host Lee Martin and I'm fortunate enough to be joined by Jason Paglia and David Mannion. We're going to be discussing the UFC Fight Night card with Alistair Overeem and Walt Harris that's going to take place this Saturday, May 16th. But before we get into any UFC talk, I just want to say if you're not already subscribed, then go ahead and hit that bell button and subscribe to our channel. Well, let's get to it. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well.
Awesome. We're just going to discuss the prelim card very briefly, just because I want to pay more attention to the main card. So Dave, I'm going to go with you with this question. Who would be your top pick for the preliminary card?
Sure. The prelims, it's not the greatest we've seen, but I think the UFC packed some of their best fights all at the weekend. Now here we are again with another Fight Night card hitting the third event. My favorite pick on the undercard is going to be Don'Tale Mayes versus the debuting Rodrigo Nascimento. Mayes is one of them guys. He's come in, he's a power striker. He is fairly technical, but we watch him lunge into his punches a lot, which works against certain types of fighters. Other than the one-punch KO power, I'm not seeing much on Mayes' behalf. So his previous fight against Cyril Gagné was obviously a mismatch, totally outclassed. And then if we take into consideration his Dana White Contender Series fight, fair enough. Lost first time around, came back the second time, earned his right onto the UFC roster, and now he's facing a guy who's debuting that not many people have heard of, but he is a jiu-jitsu wizard. And I think he's going to be a serious problem for the heavyweights. We have guys who are decent at jiu-jitsu, and then we have guys who train with masters of jiu-jitsu, and Nascimento is one of them guys. He holds a black belt. He trains out of American Top Team. He's only got 7 professional fights, but his combat career stems way further back into his jiu-jitsu championships, so on and so forth. He's only got 7 wins, but 5 of them by submission, 2 are by knockout. He trains with some of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys on the planet, and currently is an underdog. And I managed to get him at plus 110. And he can also hold his own on the feet, and he gives some nasty leg kicks, which is going to be a huge problem for the heavy foot that Dante Mayes puts forward. And as soon as Rodrigo gets this to the ground, it's going to be over. And I think we're going to see a round 1 or round 2 submission from the debuting Rodrigo Nascimento.
All right, awesome. Well, if you want to go with Dave and hit Rodrigo, at BetOnline, he is minus 104 and Mayes is minus 116. So very interesting. Now let's get into our main card discussion. And Jay, I'm just going to start with you with this one. Featherweight, Song Yadong versus Marlon Vera. Breakdown and your pick for that.
You don't often see a fighter that wins 5 fights in a row in the UFC like Chito Vera and is a plus 165 underdog in the betting market. That doesn't really happen. But that's what's going on. I think that Vera gets no respect, really, but he deserves some because half the fighters in the UFC roster couldn't string 5 victories together. But all in all, Vera's won 9 of his last 12. There's a ton of hype, though, behind Song Yadong, and I understand it. It's justifiable. I mean, his technique is really good. Fundamentally, he's got a good boxing game. He stays in the phone booth or at range. Doesn't matter. He's really solid. His footwork in the cage is great. And he has a really good power wrestling game that he can lean on if he's getting outclassed on the feet. That's a lot to deal with. So no matter who you are, that's a lot. But like I said, I don't think Vera gets any respect. He's been an underdog in a bunch of the 9 fights that he won. I give the edge to Yadong without question, but I'm not interested really in laying over $2 against a fighter that's won 75% of his last dozen in the UFC. So I'm gonna be looking in the prop market to see if I can find another angle. But as of right now, I mean, give me Chito Vera at plus 165 or pass.
Okay. And Dave, you can piggyback on that as well. Same thing. What's your pick for that fight?
Yeah, to be honest, I couldn't agree more with Jay. Like always, he's hit the nail on the head. The disrespect that's being shown to Marlon Vera doesn't make much sense. I understand the hype behind Song Yudong, but the kid is 22 years old. We could potentially be looking at a Marlon Vera here now who is in the prime of his life. He is on a 5-fight win streak. No, they're not the best guys. Some of the wins he had were against aging dudes who we might not see in the UFC again, but it's easy to forget what Vera's about. He's a BJJ black belt. That fight against Andre Ewald, where he locked in the standing head and arm choke and then dragged him to the ground, was a thing of beauty. We've watched Marlon Vera just get better and better and better and better over the years, and he fits well in this division as well. He's got nice long legs, long arms. He holds his own on the feet just as much as he does on the ground. I will say that he has struggled with that similar frame to Song Yudong. People ripping into his body and basically taking the wind out of him has been the only way that I've saw him be defeated. But again, this is John Lineker and Douglas D'Andrade who we're talking about. Song Yudong's not on their level yet. I mean, he has the same power, same body type. It's a real tough one. Jay's probably right. Go look at the prop market, because taking a side on this fight doesn't make sense. Even if I'm leaning Yudong, the price just doesn't match the fight at all. This should be way closer to a pick-em. If anything, maybe even Vera as a favourite. I'm not being funny, but Song Yudong's last performance against Cody Stamann was the draw was questionable anyway. So yeah, just be careful with this one.
Okay. Well, if you do want to get in on this fight, Song Yudong on BetOnline is -170 and Vera's +145. All right. So on to the next fight. We have the middleweight Eric Anders and Christopher Jocko. Dave, I'm going to start with you on this one. Your breakdown and your pick for this fight.
Sure. I think we might see an ugly one with this fight. I think we might see a boring decision. I'm not too excited about this fight. I'm also not excited about the lines presented either. Mm-hmm. We've got Christopher Jocko, trains out at AT&T. He's currently on a 2-fight win streak. He strikes me as a scared fighter, Jocko. He doesn't really put himself in the firing line much. If he senses danger, that guy's going to clinch up and have you up against the cage and try to avoid any type of in-the-pocket dangerous striking. He likes to strike at range himself. But this is a real tough fight. I just don't I don't like making a prediction on Eric Anders, who is unpredictable, to be honest. We don't know which Eric Anders is going to turn up, and he also had a certain hype behind him as well. He's got a strong athletic base. He used to play for the Crimson Tide in his senior year, and he's got that one-pop knockout power. But he just hasn't shown me anything that makes me go, wow, I want to pick Eric Anders in his next fight. But the same can be said for Jocko at the same time. I think we might see a stalemate in this one. Jocko is a decision machine. I think something like 9 out of 10 of his last fights ended going to the judges' scorecards. Anders has been known to just sail through fights as well and gas out by the second round and find himself on the judges' scorecards. Another sticky fight to pick. I mean, what's the current line right now? Jocko is still the slight favourite.
Yeah, Jocko is -161 and Anders is +141 right now.
Yeah, you see, I mean, that's a situation where it looks like a dog or pass for me, because I don't trust either fighter, basically.
Gotcha. Jason, do you agree with Dave, or do you have your own little pick for that fight?
I think Dave's 100% right. This is the fight that least excites me, I think, on the main card. And it least excites me from a handicapping perspective, too. I don't really know what to think about Eric Anders. He does not impress me. I know that he's coming off the win against Gerald Meerschaert, right? But he seems limited. Like, what does Eric Anders have other than that overhand left? Nothing. Like, he's supposed to be this power striker that can put you to sleep at any time, But that's a pretty limited power striking game when all you have is an overhand left hook. He's really not a grappler. He has no submission game, right? Now, he does have a solid top control wrestling game if he can get the opponent to the mat. But other than that, he doesn't have a ton of tools in the shed. And Christoph Jocko, I don't think he's really anything to write home about personally either. I think the best thing about him is probably like his power clinch grappling game, if I had to guess. If he nails his takedowns, I think he can take control of the fight. He's got a solid gas tank, which he has going for him because it's better than Eric Anders, which Dave said gas is out, 100% correct. But his striking game leaves a lot to be desired. And Jocko has been chinny. So at this line, I'm not betting this fight, but at this line, I think Dave's right. I think it's dog or pass.
All right, I guess we got to listen to you guys about that. So we're just going to move on to our featherweight, Dan Ige versus Edson Barboza. And I'm just checking out in the comments, Tyler Router said, I heard Ige is a good one. Do you guys agree, or do you have your own pick and breakdown for that fight? I'll start with you, Dave.
Yeah, this one is all about the weight cut. There's some huge concerns right now surrounding Edson Barboza and his drop down to featherweight, because this guy is ripped as you come in the lightweight division. So for him to now be going down in the featherweight, I feel like he's not going to have any fat left on his body whatsoever. God, this is a huge question mark, because for me, this is all down to Edson's weight cut and how he turns up to this fight. Because if he shows up and his weight cut's been fine and we see Edson on top of his game, I don't think Dan Ige stands a chance whatsoever. There's a huge size discrepancy in this fight, and unless Edson's going to be affected by his cardio, I personally don't see him losing. Dan Ige is a new hot prospect in the featherweight division. I think he's on a 5 or 4 fight win streak, and he started his little win streak against a character called Daniel Henry, and that's the only fighter that he has fought in this win streak that would offer a similar size and stature of Edson Barboza. And he quickly brought the big man down to the ground, pounded him, and then subbed him. The kid's light on his feet, is real strong in the clinch, and he also has some heavy hands, even though he hasn't dropped anyone in the UFC as of yet. He took out, what's his name? Mizrad Bektik, who he was riding a nice streak himself. I think he had 6 wins in the UFC. And he's a strong Bosnian grappler-based fighter. And he overcame him as well in a tight split decision. Ige's tough. He is solid on the ground. The question for me in this fight is, like I mentioned before, is Edson Barboza's weight cut. How is he going to handle it? How is he going to look? I really don't know. There's a question mark on this fight. The line's close to a pick-em, I believe. I think we'll get Barboza at about -120. Mm-hmm. We look at this fight on paper. Wow, to the average person, if they look at this fight on paper, they're going to see a 1-4 losing streak for Edson Barboza. But in reality, that's a 1-4 streak against some of the best people that the UFC has to offer. He's lost to Khabib, Justin Gaethje, Kevin Lee, and most recently Paul Fowler in a split decision, which could have been argued as well. It was a tight, close split decision, which could have been handed to either fighter. Some people argue Barboza, others argue Fowler. Fowler got the nod. But it's like Edson may be scared of that division now and he's trying to come down and get the size advantage. I don't know what he's playing at, but yeah, there's a question mark. So once again, this is a tough one to be putting your money on. I think I have to side with Edson Barboza. I can't. He's got some of the best kicks in the game. He hasn't really fought anybody outside of the top 5 or the top 10 for a long time. This is a drop in competition for Edson Barboza, but obviously it's also a drop in weight. So although it's risky, yeah, I have to side with Edson Barboza in this fight.
All right, well, Barboza is -130 and Dan is +110 right now. Jason, do you have your opinion, or do you kind of agree with Dave with this fight?
This fight, I think, is razor thin. It reminds me of the Hernandez-Dover fight last night. I faded Barboza against Paul Felder in his last fight because as much as I like Edson Barboza, he has taken an incredible amount of damage over the years, and I think it's starting to show. He is a decorated MMA fighter. He's got a black or brown belt in almost everything. And his coaching staff, like when Mark Henry is your boxing coach and Ricardo Almeida is your brilliant Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach, I mean, you're in really good shape in any fight in the UFC. And that's why his technique is phenomenal. You know, if you allow Edson Barboza to stay at range and hit you with those combos and those devastating leg kicks, you're in trouble. But Paul Felder made sure that he went into the phone booth. He was in the pocket, and I think that's why he won the fight. If you pressure Barboza inside the pocket, inside that kicking range, he could fall apart. Now, I like Dan Ige a lot as a prospect. I respect him. I think he deserves some respect on that name. I was on him as a dog against Bektik last time out. And I'm really tempted to take him again. Dave makes a good point about the weight cut, and he makes a really good point about the level of competition that Edson Barboza has fought in comparison. But I really like this kid, man. He sets an incredible pace. I think he's got a really underrated striking game. I think he has the ability to fight you at range, but more importantly, we have seen him get in the pocket and bang. And his counter striking game in the pocket seems like solid to the point where I think he would give Edson Barboza problems. And we know that Ige is a really solid wrestler. He's got a really good grappling base. I think it's razor thin. I think Dave's right. But you know what? I'm taking a shot. I'm taking a shot on the kid. Give me Ige. What's the price? Plus what?
He is plus 110.
I'm taking it. I'm taking a chance.
Awesome. Sounds good to me. Now, before we get into our last two fights, if you're just joining us, go ahead and give us a like and subscribe to our channel. That way you're updated with all of our upcoming and new content. You don't want to miss it. Now, let's get into it. Women's strawweight, Claudia Gadelha versus Angela Hall. Jason, I'm going to start with you in this one. Give me your breakdown and your pick for this fight.
Oh, God. I think this is a tough fight.
Yeah.
I think that, Claudia Gadelha is a veteran. She's fought the best of the best in the UFC for most of her career, and it's impressive, right? She's one of the best grapplers in women MMA. I truly believe that. But her stand-up game leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's serviceable at best, but far from elite. My problem with her lately, though, is her stamina has been a real concern for her. She seems to get tired in the cage, like early in the second round of some of the fights I watched. If that's the case, I think that she's going to have some problems because Angela Hill pushes a serious pace. We know what she does. She's a really solid range striker that continues to get better every time we see her. She's going to bounce around that cage for 15 minutes like she does. So her ground game is bad. It's close to non-existent, and it leaves a lot to be desired. But, she's solid at keeping herself upright and defending takedowns. Will she be able to do that against Claudia Gadelha is the question that will decide this fight. I feel like even if Gadelha takes her down in round one, I think that Angela Hill has a serious cardio advantage in round 2 and 3. And I'm usually on Gadelha, but this could be exactly like that Nina Ansaroff fight. She stayed upright. She won that decision. Gadelha gassed. At this price, I have got to take a shot on Angela Hill. So it's Angela Hill for me.
All right, sounds good. How about you, Dave? Do you agree with Jason, or do you have your own opinion on this? Gadelha versus Hill. Right now, Gadelha is minus 195. Hill is plus 170. So give me your take on that fight.
It's about to get juicy because Claudia's my girl, and I think it's Angela Hill's time. I think her little winning streak it's about due to come to an end now. She is one-dimensional, Angela Hill. The thing for me is, I don't disagree with anything Jay said actually regarding both girls. But for me, I think that Claudia, she knows exactly what she has to do to win this fight, because Angela Hill is only going to win this fight one way. Delia's never been finished. Hill's not. So let's just take that out. Hill's not going to finish her. Hill doesn't have that power in her punches. She's a volume striker. She's great. She's a great Muay Thai striker. She used to be a kickboxer, undefeated kickboxer actually. I think she's won anywhere from 15 to 20 fights, Angela Hill, in kickboxing. But that's as far as it goes for Angela Hill. And any time she is presented with a grappling offense in front of her face, or she is put on her back foot, she loses. That's what happens. She has a late career resurgence is great. She's 36 and she's on a little win streak. And yeah, it's interesting to watch Angela Hill get older and become better, much like Glover last night.
Yeah.
You expect guys to fade and just some gems they don't. And I think Angela's lucky to be fighting in the UFC right now, if I'm being honest. The last time she lost was to Randa Marcos, and she hasn't been to the ground since. She's unranked. She's facing the number 6 girl in the world. And I agree with Jay. Delia hasn't looked as sharp in recent times as she may have done in the past. I just don't see Angela Hill doing much, and I think Claudia's just going to come in. Obviously, she's not going to want to be involved in a stand-up war whatsoever. She wants no part of that, and if she does, it's just going to be to test the waters and see where she stands, and maybe run through and grab the takedown. But she's not that bad on her feet. She could be better. She's certainly got better on the feet than she was in the past. She's more technical now. Delia never used to feint. She feints now. She feints a leg kick. She's got nice jabs. But she's not on the level of striking that Angela Hill is. So she knows the game plan is to come in and grapple and make this a grappling fight. And she has a BJJ to put Angela Hill away. And if Randa Marcos can do it within a couple of minutes, I think Claudia can do it too. She has a beautiful double underhook, and then she like leans to the side a bit, and she just drags her opponents and slams them to the floor. This is what Delia is known for. This is like her signature move. Now, this is an almost identical move as to how Marcos took Angela Hill to the ground to win her fight. So don't be surprised if Claudia comes in, overpowers Angie's clinch game and Muay Thai clinch and just slams her to the floor. Yeah, I've got to go with Delia.
I agree
by submission or decision for me.
I agree with everything you just said, right? But the only thing that's keeping me off of her, right, is that price. Do you think there's value in the line?
Oh, not at all. Sorry. Yeah, we need to discuss the price. I am parlaying Delia up. So she will be a parlay piece for me, but I am not paying minus. I think she's minus 200 now. No, there's not a chance. I wouldn't pay that for. Yeah, no, sorry.
That makes sense.
We're good on the price is off. The price is off. You can't. That price is. There's no explaining that price. So, parlay piece for me.
All right.
Gotcha.
Sounds good to me. So now for our main event. Heavyweight Alistair Overeem versus Walt Harris. Dave, I'm going to start with you in this one. Your breakdown and your top pick for that fight. Go ahead.
Now, this fight's a rough one because of Walt Harris. I mean, people who watch UFC and pay attention to MMA news, they know exactly what's going on. His daughter passed away. She was kidnapped and murdered. I don't know how that is going to affect a person mentally, but I think we could see an absolute beast in the octagon this weekend if he is channeling that energy into this fight. problem for Walt Harris is I've seen him struggle against lesser technical strikers than Overeem. I doubted Overeem against Rosenstrike. He totally outclassed him. But then Overeem's got that questionable chin, which nobody can trust. But at the same time as having a questionable chin, he is great at striking at range. He is the perfect range striker. So if Walt Harris is going to stand there and strike with Overeem at range, he's going to lose himself a decision. He is 100% going to lose himself a decision, exactly the same as Rosenstrike did. If he wants to be on the outside at range with Overeem, he's got no chance. So what's Walt Harris got to do? He's got to come on the inside. He's got to throw them bombs. He's got the power to end the fight. I think we could either see Walt Harris turn up like Francis Ngannou did the other day and just run through Overeem and not care. Or we might see a hesitant, worried Walt Harris. I really don't know. Because of the circumstances surrounding his personal life, and you have to take these things into your breakdowns because that's a big deal. I think that news is either going to make or break somebody. So it all depends on his persona and how he's taking this stuff. But he's fighting one of the most dangerous UFC heavyweights in the history of MMA. Alistair Overeem, been fighting since he was born. Former Strikeforce champion, British-born, Dutch-raised kickboxing champion, Strikeforce, K1, Dream, Pride, all the big organizations from back in the 90s and 2000s. Overeem's won them. Overeem's fought. Name a heavyweight, Overeem's probably fought him. At the same time, he's suffered a lot of knockouts and a lot of strikes to the head. So he can be put away. I think Walt Harris can put him away. I'm going to side with the guy who should be coming into this with a big reason to win this fight. So I'm going to take Walt Harris for this one.
All right. Well, on BetOnline, Overeem is plus 115 and Walt Harris is minus 135. Jay, how do you feel about those odds?
I feel like my guy Dave is dead balls accurate. Yeah. That's how I feel. I'm excited to see Walt Harris back in the cage on Saturday. Like Dave said, anybody that's really into MMA news knows the poor guy suffered a horrific tragedy I couldn't even fathom. Now, Dave's right in the fact that we don't know how it will affect him, but I'm sure that he's going to walk into that cage, man, and take a ton of emotional baggage over the last 6 months out on Alistair Overeem. Technically, I really enjoy Walt Harris, and I like his striking game, and I think something Dave said is interesting. He said, if Walt Harris stays at range, he's in trouble, because Overeem's a technical striker and he'll get picked apart. But I don't really see Walt Harris fight at range a lot. He prefers to be right in your face, right in that pocket almost always. And his fundamentals in the pocket are a lot better than at range. I think he's got, like Dave said, a ton of power in his hands. He's freakishly strong. And he's got like these little explosive bursts of speed, hand speed for a heavyweight. I think his footwork is good. I think he's got nasty leg kicks. Obviously, we know is for not being a wrestler in high school or college, we know his wrestling base is really good. His top control, if he gets you down, he's probably going to keep you there. He's not a submission threat at all. Obviously, we know that. He doesn't have to be, though, in this fight. And Alistair Overeem is just a really, really good kickboxer. I mean, he impressed me what he did for 24 and a half minutes against Rosenstruck. It was impressive. But at the end of the day, his face got split in half and he got knocked out. And that's because of his chin. So I really think that Walt Harris is going to walk in there, like Dave said, like Ngannou did at UFC 249, and he's shutting the lights off. I think Walt Harris by TKO, you'll probably get a great price. But I'll be honest, I'm fine with laying the money. I'll lay the, what is it, minus 140 you said?
You may as well do it by a knockout. You think? Yeah. Do you really think he's going to win a decision?
No,
What's
yeah, I
the
think
by
you're right,
knockout
Dave.
price?
I think you probably just take him by knockout. I think he's going to
Yeah.
go in there and he's going to unleash what he's
Yeah.
had to deal with over the last year.
Yep. I
Yeah.
can see that happening.
Or lose on points. So and that's why you should take, if you're gonna take Walt,
Right.
take him by knockout.
Right.
All right.
Yeah, he's got to get it done, man. To answer your question though, it was just the Arlovsky fight is where I saw Walt exchange with somebody in that sort of way. Do you know what I mean? Where he was striking with Arlovsky, and it was just like, what you doing? And you're right, because it didn't look like Walt Harris, and we don't see him do that. And yeah, I doubt we're gonna see him do that at the weekend. I predict Walt Harris by murder at the weekend.
I'm with you, buddy. I'm with you.
All right, sounds good, guys. So if you guys do want to get in on this, on BetOnline, again, Overeem is plus 115 and Harris is minus 135. And I'm just going to check out the comments real quick over here. And I have Tyler Router asking, Dave, what do you bet? Dave, if you want to answer that for Tyler. What do you bet?
I bet UFC. That's such a vague question.
Right.
I tell you what, follow me on Twitter. They probably already do already. It's probably someone I know. It's probably somebody trolling like Max or someone. But yeah, just at Dave Mannion on Twitter, DM me a question. I'll answer all your questions.
Well, there you go, Tyler. Well, that's all I have for you guys today, and thank you guys so much for dropping some knowledge for this weekend's UFC fight. It's going to take place this Saturday, May 16th, so you don't want to miss it. And if you aren't following the guys on Twitter, definitely go ahead and follow them. You can follow Dave at Dave Betts, and you can follow Jason at the Sports Keg CEO. And if you aren't subscribed to our channel, definitely hit that bell button and subscribe to our channel. That way you don't miss a thing. And if you aren't following us on Twitter, follow us on Twitter at SBR Sports Picks and also on Instagram at SBR Sports. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend and have a great time watching this fight night. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks.
I'll see you around.